Hello, guys. The major issue that I'll be discussing in today's episode is bullying. To define bullying in simple terms, it is the repetitive, intentional hurting of one person or group by another person where the relationship involves an imbalance of power. Bullying can be physical, verbal, or psychological. It can happen in a person, such as face to face, and it can also happen online through the internet or over the phone. Bullying is an absolutely horrible thing, and when it happens, the bully or bullies are seeking to harm, intimidate, or even coerce the victim. Bullying happens all over the place in many different settings, and a change for the better needs to happen soon because bullying leads to things like self-harm, suicide, and depression, and anxiety. It is horrible, and the sad truth is that a lot of the people who are bullying others were once a victim of being bullied. 70% of people can say that they have seen at least one incident of bullying occur throughout their lifetime, and around 40% of people can say that they have seen bullying happen repeatedly. When it comes to bullying, schools are like a feeding ground for bullies, as 19% of people who were bullied, report they were bullied during the time that they were in school. There are so many examples of bullying, and they can vary from very mild to very extreme, but here are a couple of bullying incidents that really stuck out to me, and I hope that they will stick out to you as well. The first incident that I'm going to talk about happened at Pana High School. In this incident, 5 different students joined forces and picked up another student against his will and held him upside down over a toilet in an attempt to give him a swirly. Luckily, it is said that the victim of this incident did not make contact with the toilet and he sustained no injuries. This incident led to the police investigation, and now there is a court case regarding this incident. I can say with my whole heart that this makes me very sad to hear because I just can't comprehend why or how you would do this to somebody. I want you to take a minute to think about what emotions this victim was feeling during this incident, and imagine if you were in his place and the victim of this horrible occurrence. One more example of bullying that really stuck out to me and hit me very hard was a story about a young girl named Autumn Bushman. Autumn was described as a child who had deep empathy for others, was soft-hearted, and was always ready to lend a helping hand or offer support for others whenever she could. Because of her compassion and kindness for others, she would always stick up for other people, which is amazing. But what is not amazing is that she herself was bullied because of this. That's crazy. She was bullied so much and so severely that she actually ended up taking her own life as a result because she couldn't handle it anymore. This is so sad, and it makes me feel heartbroken. I just don't understand how you could be mean to a child who was never anything but nice, helpful, and supportive to others. The next thing that I'm going to talk about is a real life situation where bullying had a huge impact on someone that I care for dearly. For privacy reasons, I'm just going to call him Jack. So Jack is a very close friend of mine, and he is such a nice person, though he has always been a target for bullying since he was in middle school. For a while, he was just teased or messed with, and it wasn't horrible, but it was still bullying, so it wasn't great. Then it got to a point where it was so bad that he had to be homeschooled so he wouldn't be a victim of it every single day. This did work for a while, but then he started getting bullied by those same people online. This made him feel miserable, and he was basically filled with nothing but sadness every single day. After about a year or so of this, it finally stopped, and he was getting to a point where he was actually happy again, and he got to finish middle school without being bullied. This made both him and his mom feel comfortable with him going back to public school for when high school started. You would think that this was awesome and that it would be a good thing, and for a period of time it was. But then he slowly started getting picked on again. At first it was just verbal comments and people saying hateful things to make fun of him. This really sucked, and he told me it seemed like he couldn't get a break, and he was just honest and told me that his mental health had gotten really bad because of this. After a while he started to hurt himself, and at one point it got really serious and he tried to kill himself. Luckily he didn't, but he did have to go to the mental hospital for a long time, and for a while it seemed like all he did was go for a little bit and then come home and then go back again. That's basically what his life consisted of during that time. However, around the time that he started his junior year of high school, he was in a much better place. And I had been with him a lot, and I tried very hard to get his mental status back to good again. We played video games and basketball a lot, and these things were great because they took his mind off of what people were saying, and they allowed him to find his peace. This was a great distraction for him, and his life basically consisted of video games and basketball whenever he wasn't at school. Even though this did work for a while, sadly around the time that his junior year of high school was about halfway through, and all the way through his senior year, the bullying got really bad again. But this time he hid it from everyone, and I had no clue that it was going on. I remember vividly driving to get some food late at night, and out of nowhere, he had a mental breakdown in my car. He started screaming and crying and throwing things, and I was in complete shock because it came out of nowhere and I had no clue what was going on. I ended up pulling over and trying to get him to talk to me, but he was so worked up and upset that it took probably about 10 minutes or so for him to calm down enough to tell me for him to even begin telling me what was going on. I couldn't understand him at first, but then I was able to. Eventually, he just let everything out, and he told me about all of the online bullying that he was facing from so many different people, and what was crazy is that I knew a lot of them, which actually made me mad. He told me how he was trying not to tell me because he didn't want to bother me. And I was like, dude, you're never going to bother me. All I want is to make sure that you're safe and okay. And after some convincing, he finally opened up and told me that he was miserable, tired, and ready to die because he couldn't handle life anymore. He told me that he felt worthless and that he thought that the world around him would be better without him. This really hurt to hear, and I was crying and trying to do my best to control myself from breaking down so that I could be there to comfort him. We ended up talking for what seemed like hours, and finally he ended up getting out of the car, walked around to my door, and gave me a hug, which is probably the longest hug that I have ever received. Then he was honest and told me that he needed help. He said he didn't know what exactly he needed, but he needed help. So I talked to his mom, and she understandably was very upset as well, and actually ended up getting the police involved. After doing some digging, they talked to my brother, and from what I was told, a lot of the kids who were bullying him got talked to by the police as well. During all of this, Jack ended up going back to the mental hospital, and he stayed there for like 2 or 3 weeks. Once he got out, he started going to therapy on a regular basis, and any time that he was feeling down or negative, he called me and we talked about it or went to do something to get his mind off of whatever was going on. Even though it had gotten better, he seems to go through stages where he is super happy and then he feels down again. So I just do my very best to make sure that he is all right, and his mom continues to take him to therapy, which seems to be a positive outlet for him to get what he is feeling off of his chest. This experience started many years ago, and it is still going on, though it is much better now, and I am so grateful for that. Since this happened to someone who is a very good friend of mine, it made me realize how serious bullying is, and the fact that someone I care for almost took his own life because it makes me understand all of the feelings and thoughts that are involved with this type of thing. I hope that after hearing this, you were able to get a better understanding and also gain an even better ability to feel for those who are affected by bullying, as it is so serious and it can lead to the people that you love trying to take their own lives. Now I want to discuss ways that you can deal with any situation that is like this. I do want you to be prepared, though I also hope that you are never put in this situation, as it is very hurtful. Through my experience, I have learned that the best things that you can do are to, most importantly, be there for whoever is going through this and to make sure that you let them feel heard. You need to make sure that they know that you care and that you want to be there for them, and you also want to let them know that getting help is okay. From my experience, the best thing to do is to set up some kind of time where they get to go to a therapist and talk about everything that they are feeling, experiencing, and thinking. And make sure that you can continuously take them even when they say that they are okay, because they are going to need an outlet and a safe space where they feel comfortable discussing what's on their mind. Although you don't want to seem intrusive, you should always check in, even when they say they are fine, and say that they are fine, because you never know what there could be something that they are hiding. Overall, I want you to know that if you or anyone you know is experiencing being bullied, it is okay to get help, and it is vital to find your safe and healthy outlet. I hope that hearing this gave you a deeper understanding of how harmful it can be, and the fact that even though it may not seem serious, it can lead to someone hurting or even taking their own life. Thank you.